Oh yeah, he's back. The crack of the bat, the ping of the crossbar, and the roar of the crowd. We cover everything you want to talk about. It's the Rod Pedersen Show.
Good morning, Canada. Canadian sports fans around the world. It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. Welcome to the Rod Pedersen Show, hour one of our program. Episode number 128, Canada's only morning sports talk show. How you doing, Dupes?
Good morning. I'm doing well.
That's
you?
good. I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I'm the host, as you know. We're a pair, a successful pair.
Yeah.
Like I'm the Hamburglar. You're Grimace.
Grimace. Good.
You were waiting to hear which one.
Yeah,
which
I didn't
one.
know which one you were.
The Hamburglar and Grimace. And all of a sudden, I'm hungry.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Rollout, everybody, presented by Flooring Superstore and our good friends over there, the Dickens. We've had an evolving show today. We are now, 10 days into the CFL offseason. We'll be talking some football, of course. I see the Majuri family is tuned in from Smyrna Beach, Florida. Their son is a coach of the Rough Riders. I know everybody wants the latest on the CFL, and we will get to that. BC Lions have a new head coach, by the way. His name's Rick Campbell. You all know him. Former CFL Coach of the Year and Grey Cup champion. Our Director of Scouting, Craig Smith, will be in the bunker today. Hello, Smitty. Hello. He's on the sponsors couch. And we brought him out of the bullpen, and I appreciate him doing that because Jared Dumba was going to be with us, 10-year hockey pro, Blades and Hounds alum, and then he bailed a couple of hours before the show. Yeah. And that was a little upsetting because people were writing us over the last 24 hours going, Tuesday's your hockey day, right? That's the day Jared Dumba's on. And we're like, well, it can still be our hockey day, but Jared's not going to be here today. And that's unfortunate. So looking at our board, it's still a hockey day. We got the Grim Reaper on, Stu Grimson. We've got Alan May. Alan May, NHL great, will join us, Washington Capitals analyst. From the Regina Leader-Post, Austin Davis. And I'm actually very much looking forward to that interview. Mm-hmm. And people are going to say, why are you saying actually looking forward to it? It's because you don't all know Austin. You know his dad, Daryl Davis. You know his dad, but you don't all know Austin Davis. And he pretty much runs everything digital with the Leader-Post. So I want to talk with him about sports media now. We'll talk a little bit about the green and white in CFL, and we'll talk about the Me Too movement in sports. So let's get into it. Okay?
Yeah.
Before we go down the list, well, here's my thing. We're going to talk about the Swift Current Broncos firing their trainer yesterday, Jamie LeBlanc. We're going to talk about Mark Crawford and how Sean Avery changed his tune on Mark Crawford. Was that just this morning?
It was yesterday. Not that long. Late yesterday.
Within the last 24 hours.
Within the last 24
Sean
hours.
Avery's completely changed his tune and said he deserved to be kicked in the ass by Mark Crawford. You showed me the video.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's a little late, Sean.
Yeah.
Crow's now on leave of absence while they investigate this, and now you're saying you were misunderstood and you deserved it? I've never met Sean Avery. Anybody who has said this is not a guy that should be listened to. I'm sorry to jump all over because I know you want to keep jumping in here, but I mentioned Rick Campbell hired as coach of the BC Lions. Dave Naylor came on here yesterday and said that everybody knew 28 days ago when Campbell resigned in Ottawa that he was going to be the head coach in BC. Clearly, that would lead to tampering, which, by the way, I have no problem with at all. I don't. But do you? That's my question to the viewers later on. And then World Junior Hockey Championship invites. Canada's roster invite came out yesterday. No Kirby Doc, as you pointed out, and no Nolan Meyer of the Saskatoon Blades. I know you have thoughts on that. So just to the Swift Current Broncos firing their trainer, Jamie LeBlanc, I don't have the statement up in front of me, and I don't even want to read it because, frankly, I find the statement disturbing. I'm standing up for Butter. That's his nickname. I've known him nearly 20 years. Any statement I make is not anti-Swift Current Broncos. It's not anti-Dean Brockman, nor Trent McCleary, their president. It's pro-Butter because I've known the guy for almost 20 years. And the statements were along the lines of a pattern of demeaning, derogatory remarks, something like that, conduct
detrimental to
the Swift Current Broncos. And that's, to me, that's just wrong. And the reason that I'm pro-Butter is through my life in the last 20 years, all the ups and downs, which you've all seen, had a front row seat for, professionally and personally, Butter's had my back. even through that stuff with the Swift Current Broncos, when I needed a police escort to get into that town, in and out, Butter had my back because he got me. So to see what's going on with Butter right now is wrong. And the way he's been portrayed, if you want to fire somebody, fire somebody. You don't need to have a public hanging, which is what they've done with the poor kid, which he's not a kid. But to make the statement that we talked about and then have CBC latch onto it in Sportsnet and have Bob McKenzie say this is a day of reckoning, you don't even know him. How can you pass judgment on the guy if you've never even heard his name until yesterday? So Jamie, I did talk to him last night. He said he's getting his ducks in a row, and once he does, he'll reach out and we'll talk a little more. The guy that I feel the sorriest for is Trent McCleary because he's caught in the middle. He's the president of the Swift Current Broncos, and he supports his team, and he loves anybody that knows Butter loves him, but he had to pick a side. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
And it was the trainer that went down. And Dean Brockman, when I said this is not anti-Dean Brockman, the coach in GM, when Dean got fired as coach of the Blades, I called him and we talked. He said that he was glad that I did. When my dad died, Dean called me and we talked. And I'm glad he called me. When he took the Swift Current Bronco job and had to turn down the Humboldt Bronco job, he explained to me why. Like, we're good friends too. And I think you said it best when we were on the couch in the pre-show meeting here. You said, we love hockey people. They're all hockey people. This is an incredibly unfortunate incident.
It is.
But I'll just sum it up by saying, if you want to fire somebody, fire somebody. Jobs come and go. But to hang him publicly like this, I feel is wrong.
Yeah, it's really tough. And that is exactly what I said. I mean, we love hockey people. We do. They're great people. They don't always get along with each other. And there's different sides all the time, but they're all hockey people, and we like them. And of course, it's such an interesting situation because you talk about, why do we have to have a public hanging and this big circumstance for firing somebody? And that's the nature of the business we're in. But I can't remember the last time that a trainer being fired. They get let go and move up and down all the time, and there's no press releases for it. It's not a coach. It's not a key player. And I'm not diminishing his role in the organization, but it feels like it was sent out as a news release, almost to say, look, we're taking care of our cleaning our closet too, and we want everybody to know it. And I don't know. I think, in that situation, a guy who's been around the organization for so long, if you don't like what he's been saying or some of the things he's done or whatever, and it might come back, I don't know what's going on exactly, but you can let go of him without making it a big public statement, and at least give him that opportunity to kind of go about it, in a quiet way.
That's between them.
Yeah.
But to issue the statement and make it national news, now it's everybody's news.
Because it's not national news that, now they got an opening for a trainer.
It is now.
It is now. But, it's different than a coach. Of course you would announce that a coach has been fired because now you've got an opening. It's your figurehead of your organization.
Just a couple of years ago, they named a street after him outside the rink, and I was just informed this morning they've taken the street sign down. So how do you think that feels?
Yeah.
And by the way, I'm all for bullies getting their due, serial harassers getting their due. I'm okay with that. Harvey Weinstein needed to go down, and people like him. That was a good movement. Butter is not the bully that people think that he's part of this movement, and that's the problem that I have. The guy's struggling. Well, actually, he seemed okay when I talked to him last night, but how would it feel to have this, to be vilified in this way? So, and I've kind of had it to here with good guys taking the fall for the wrong reason. Tyler, by the way, our business development officer, what's his title? Something like that?
Sure.
Sales manager. Hi, Tyler. He says, morning, boys, watching with our friends at Anchor Managed Solutions in Saskatoon. So hello to everybody at Anchored Managed Solutions in Saskatoon. Boy, we're spending a lot of time in Saskatoon, aren't we?
We love Saskatoon.
Oh, and by the way, here's the other thing, because we'll move on and bring Smitty in here in segment 2 here on the rollout for Flooring Superstore. But this morning in the gym, an ex-rider, probably he doesn't want to be named, but he said to me, where does this end? He said, if every coach who said something to me and it hurt my feelings got fired, we'd have no coaches left. And Clark said it in our morning meeting. When does this filter from hockey over to football and any other sports?
Yeah.
How far does it go?
Yeah.
Because we're just scratching the surface on hockey. We haven't even got into the other sports yet.
It's just getting started. And I'm with you. I mean, I'm all for bullies and bad people being out of any position that they shouldn't be in. I completely, 100%. But I've said this 1,000 times. We all have made mistakes of some capacity and some level in our past. And we should be allowed to grow and change. And if we can't show that we've changed, then we deserve what's coming. But we need to give people the opportunity to grow and change. We live in a different world than we did 10 years ago. So all those actions may be right, may be wrong, but nobody brought it up at the time. And for whatever reason, you didn't. And that's fine. But if those people have changed, then we need to show that they've grown, give them that opportunity. I think that's so important. But it's also a different world too, because we sit here in our own professions and be like, geez, if that guy did that to my kids in their job, I would ask them to leave, or they should be fired. And, but we're not in the same profession. They're getting paid millions of dollars to play in these sports. If they're going to live extraordinary lives, they're going to deal with extraordinary things and have extraordinary circumstances. It's just simply the way it is. It's like my brother works in the mine every day, goes every day. We don't have to go and work in bad environments and polluted air and all that kind of stuff. If this was all smoky and dusty, we'd demand for a change, and our environment's not right. But guess what? He gets danger pay. And so he gets compensated for going in and dealing with that tough circumstance. So unless you've been in that locker room and you know what you've gone through, it's hard to be on the other side.
Just some comments here. Devin Allen writes in and he says, great to hear someone's perspective that has actually talked to Butter and knows who he is. By the way, Butter's not talking per se. Just to recap, what he said to me last night is he's getting his ducks in a row and he'll have something, we'll talk later down the line. That's it, because I don't believe he's allowed to say anything. Probably advised by his own legal counsel. But this is not anti-Swift Current Broncos. This is not anti-Trent McCleary nor Dean Brockman. This is pro Jamie LeBlanc, because he deserves better than the way he's being portrayed publicly. Mark Rathwell writing in, he says, a little coffee break check-in from the Cancer Foundation of Saskatchewan. Hello, Mark. Hopefully that you can stick with us for a whole 2-hour coffee break, because that's what we do over here. I think that's all that I had. We'll bring Smitty in, our director of scouting, but it keeps echoing in my ears what that former Rough Rider said this morning. If every coach that said something to me that hurt my feelings got fired, there'd be no coaches left. We're talking about language here, not abusive coaches.
I got no time for the physical abuse.
No.
None.
No.
And the mental abuse and the verbal abuse, it's all a matter of perspective too. One thing I say could be very abusive, in other ways it might not be, but that's a big gray area. It's just such a confusing time. Well,
as you point out, physical abuse, emotional abuse, verbal abuse. Who says how much is right? What kind is right? I get all of that. But we'll bring in Smitty and get to some actual football talk. But that was something that I wanted to get off my chest here this morning in the Rollout for Flooring Superstar. We got a lot of things to get to today, including Stu Grimson, Alan May, Austin Davis. Our director of scouting, Craig Smith, joins us next, plus a sports update coming up. It is the Rod Pedersen Show, episode number 28 on Facebook Live, and listen live at rodpedersen.com.
You're watching Rod Pedersen On Demand. For more of the Rod Pedersen Show, visit rodpedersen.com or follow Rod Pedersen on social media.